you're watching World News Program with me, Mariam Zian. To the headlines. After Indian airstrikes on Pakistan and the Pakistani-administered part of Kashmir, Islamabad has confirmed that it has authorized its military to respond to the Indian strikes. The Israeli occupation has committed brutal massacres in various areas of the Gaza Strip, resulting in at least 100 martyrs. Qatar and Egypt affirmed the continuation of their mediation efforts. Meanwhile, the resistance announced it had ambushed Israeli forces in complex operations in Khan Yunis and Rafah. Algerian president calls for broader South-South cooperation at high-level forum in Sierra Leone, reaffirming Algeria's steadfast commitment to promoting good governance and reiterating its support for a multipolar world. And in Sudan, new explosions shook Port Sudan. The army announced it had repelled a drone attack. General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan emphasized the need to strengthen security in White Nile state. Sudanese organizations and bodies praised the decision to cut diplomatic ties with the UAE. Hello and welcome back to your nightly program. First in our news, India conducted military strikes against Pakistan overnight, hitting numerous sites in Pakistan-controlled Kashmir and deeper into Pakistan itself. Security officials say precision strikes weapon systems, including drones, were used to carry out the strikes. And on its behalf, Pakistan vowed retaliation over the attacks that it considered blatant and unprovoked. Usama Ayadi has the report.
India launched overnight military strikes against targets in Pakistani-administered Kashmir and deeper inside Pakistani territory, escalating tensions between the nuclear-armed neighbors to levels not seen in years. According to Indian security officials, the operation involved precision strike weapons, including drones, and targeted what they described as militant infrastructure.
India exercised its right to respond and preempt, as well as deter more such cross-border attacks. These actions were measured, non-escalatory, proportionate, and responsible.
Casualty reports vary sharply. Islamabad claims 26 civilians were killed in the Indian strikes and ensuing border clashes, while New Delhi reports at least 8 Indian fatalities from Pakistani shelling. In total, at least 34 people are confirmed dead.
At 6 locations where the Indians attacked last night, unprovoked, the blatant aggression that they did, Pakistan has lost 26 civilians and 46 are injured.
The latest violence follows a deadly terrorist attack last month in the disputed Kashmir region, which left 26 mostly Indian tourists dead. India has blamed Pakistan-based militant groups for the assault and described its response as a necessary act of self-defense. Pakistan's military, however, condemned the strikes as unprovoked and a blatant act of aggression. Military spokesman Lieutenant General Ahmed Sharif Chaudhry warned that Pakistan would retaliate at a time, place, and means of their choosing.
Pakistan reserves the right and will respond to this aggression at a time, place, and means of our own choice.
While full details remain unclear, the scale of intensity of the cross-border exchange marked a dangerous escalation. The two countries, both claiming Kashmir in full but controlling parts of it, have fought multiple wars over the territory since independence. Despite growing international calls for restraint and de-escalation, India and Pakistan appear to be on a collision course. With regional stability hanging in the balance, the prospect of a broader conflict looms large.
Authorities in the Jammu and Kashmir region announced Wednesday the start of evacuation operations in several border areas amid the recent military escalation with Pakistan. Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha confirmed that the local government is closely monitoring developments and has taken provocative measures or proactive measures, including relocating villagers from high-risk areas, to safer locations while ensuring the provision of all essential services. The United Nations has expressed deep concern over the accelerating military escalation between India and Pakistan, warning that a military confrontation between the two nuclear-armed states would have catastrophic consequences for both regional and global stability. UN Secretary-General's spokesperson, Stéphane Dujarric, told reporters that the world cannot afford a military clash between India and Pakistan. He urged both parties to exercise restraint and halt the escalation immediately, adding that Secretary-General Antonio Guterres is in ongoing contact with the two parties through diplomatic channels and encourages a return to dialogue and peaceful solutions. So the United Nations, or the Algerian government, has expressed deep regret and great concern over what it described as the tragic clashes between India and Pakistan. A statement from the Algerian Foreign Ministry explained that during the discussions held at the United Nations Security Council in separate phone calls between Algerian Minister of State and Foreign Affairs Ahmed Attaf and his Indian and Pakistani counterparts issued an urgent call for restraint and stressed the need to prioritize political and diplomatic paths over the use of force. The same source added that Algeria has reiterated its call for restraint with even greater urgency as the violent clashes that erupted between the two countries from Tuesday night into Wednesday pose serious risks to peace and security across the region. Algeria also emphasized that the highest priority at this particular moment must be to encourage the two sides to show restraint, remain calm, and act with a sense of responsibility in order to resume dialogue, the only path capable of sparing the people of India and Pakistan the hardships and consequences of a conflict they both have the wisdom and capacity to avoid. US President Donald Trump said on Wednesday that he wants India and Pakistan to stop attacking each other now and offered to help the two countries work out their differences amid rising tensions. Donald Trump told reporters in the Oval Office that he wants to see it stop and that if he can do anything to help, he will be there.
Oh, it's so terrible. My position is I get along with both. I know both very well, and I want to see them work it out. I want to see them stop. And hopefully they can stop now. They've gone tit for tat, so hopefully they can stop now. But I know both. We get along with both countries very well, good relationships with both, and I want to see it stop. And if I can do anything to help, I will be there.
And for its part, China called on both India and Pakistan on Wednesday to also exercise restraint and put peace and stability first in response to the military escalation between the South Asian countries. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Li Jian told a regular news conference in Beijing that China is closely monitoring the developments in tensions between India and Pakistan and advised the Chinese citizens to avoid going to areas close to the conflict zone.
We express regrets regarding India's military action early this morning and are concerned about the current escalation in the situation. India and Pakistan are inseparable neighbors, and both are also neighbors of China. China opposes all forms of terrorism and calls for both India and Pakistan to prioritize regional peace and stability, remain calm and restrained, and avoid actions that could further complicate the situation. We're willing to work with the international community to continue playing a constructive role in easing the current tensions.
Moving on now to developments in occupied Palestinian territories, 25 Palestinians were martyred and others wounded in Israeli airstrikes that targeted a restaurant and a market in the Al-Rimal neighborhood in western Gaza City. Media sources in Gaza confirmed Wednesday that the death toll had risen to 25, including journalist Yahya Subaih and members of a single family after two simultaneous missiles struck a restaurant and a busy intersection teeming with vendors and shoppers. And still in occupied Palestinian territory, several Palestinians were also martyred and others injured on Wednesday morning in another massacre committed by the Israeli occupation in the Al-Tufah neighborhood in eastern Gaza City. According to local Palestinian sources, Israeli warplanes launched two separate airstrikes on Al-Karama school in the Al-Tufah area, resulting in the deaths of 19 Palestinians and injuring others with varying degrees of injuries. And more than 200 Palestinian journalists have been martyred since the beginning of the genocidal war waged by the Israeli occupation on the Gaza Strip. In a statement issued Wednesday, the Gaza government media office confirmed the martyrdom of 213 journalists following the death of journalist Noor ad-Din Abdu and the injury of dozens more as a result of ongoing Israeli massacres targeting Palestinian journalists in the Strip. Also, at least 38 Palestinians were martyred and 145 others injured in the Gaza Strip over the past 24 hours. In a statement, the Palestinian Ministry of Health in Gaza reported that the death toll from the Israeli aggression has reached 2,545 martyrs and 6,856 injured since March 18, 2025. Since October 7, 2023, the overall toll has risen to 52,653 martyrs and 118,897 injured. Egypt and Qatar affirmed on Wednesday that their joint mediation efforts to achieve a permanent end to the war of extermination in Gaza are ongoing and coordinated. In a joint statement, both countries affirmed that their efforts are based on a unified vision aimed at ending the humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip. The statement also emphasized that attempts to sow doubt, distort facts, or escalate media tensions will not deter their joint continued efforts to end the war in Gaza. And the Al-Qassam Brigades, the military wing of Hamas, released video footage of what it described as a complex ambush against Israeli soldiers and vehicles in the areas of Al-Zahra Mosque within the Al-Junaynah neighborhood as part of what it called the Gates of Hell operations in eastern Rafah.
الله صوت حبايبي بسم الله الله اكبر بسم الله الله اكبر الله اكبر ولله الحمد.
President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune reaffirmed Algeria's commitment to African solidarity and South-South cooperation at the third high-level African Forum in Sierra Leone in a speech delivered by Prime Minister Nadir Al-Arbawi. As a chair of the Forum of Heads of State and Government of the African Peer Review Mechanism, Mr. Tebboune emphasized Algeria's ongoing efforts to promote regional cooperation and called for a development model that makes Africa a key partner in shaping a fairer global order.
It's Algeria's belief and commitment to African solidarity and its contribution to strengthening South-South cooperation, a commitment that is solid, constant, and enduring, along with its continuous efforts to promote regional and African cooperation, to strive for tangible and effective outcomes and to turn them into a concrete reality. Algeria seeks to maximize mutual benefits and draw from local experiences. We seize these opportunities not only to strengthen South-South cooperation, but also to build an inclusive development model that will make our African continent a true and active partner in shaping a fairer and more equitable global order.
President Abdelmajid Tebboune affirmed that Algeria's chairmanship of the Forum of Heads of State and Government of the African Peer Review Mechanism reflects a strong commitment to promoting good governance.
Algeria's chairmanship of the Forum of Heads of State and Government of the African Peer Review Mechanism reflects its firm commitment to promoting good governance and contributing to integrative efforts at the African level in establishing peace, stability, and prosperity. It is also important to note that in 2017, the scope and mandate of this African mechanism were expanded to include monitoring and evaluating the African Agenda 2063 and the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals to achieve development objectives and good governance, which marked a turning point that enabled it to address issues of governance and development extensively across our continent.
Also, in his address, Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune reaffirmed Algeria's continued support for a multipolar world founded on solidarity, cooperation, and non-interference in the internal affairs of states.
Rooted in its deep belief in South-South and triangular cooperation as a catalyst for peace, shared prosperity, and sustainable development, Algeria has made this cooperation a cornerstone of its foreign policy. The country continues to support a multipolar world based on solidarity, cooperation, and non-interference in the internal affairs of states, while being a steadfast advocate for the right of peoples to self-determination. Algeria remains committed to contributing to international efforts aimed at promoting South-South cooperation within multilateral frameworks and has been at the forefront of global initiatives to establish a new, just economic system grounded in rights and justice for sustainable development.
President Abdelmajid Tebboune called for expanding South-South cooperation to go beyond existing areas and include pressing global challenges such as climate change, migration, energy, and food security. Let's take a listen.
Algeria advocates for expanding South-South cooperation to include, in addition to existing areas, a range of issues that currently present global challenges, such as climate change, migration, energy, food security, water security, and artificial intelligence. Algeria believes that economic cooperation between southern countries in fields like trade, investment, and technology can play a key role in addressing the imbalances and gaps within the international economic system.
Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune reaffirmed that Algeria will never accept for the memory file to be subject to neglect or denial. The message marking the National Day of Memory and the 80th anniversary of the May 5, 1945 massacres, President Tebboune stressed that while Algeria is focused on building its present and striving for greater sustainable development, it remains driven by the will of its people to mobilize national capacities and secure its regional and global standing.
Sovereign, proud and victorious Algeria is building the foundations of its present and looking forward with determination and action to further sustainable development. Today, it is propelled by the will of its patriotic sons and daughters who are working during this delicate phase to mobilize the nation's capabilities to impose its position regionally and globally. It is bolstered by a historic legacy that instills the pride of the Algerian people, filled with courage and the upholding of principles of justice and freedom. With respect to the sanctity of the legacy of resistance and struggle, and in commitment to the path of the November Revolution and the eternal message of the martyrs, Algeria will never accept that the memory file be forgotten or denied.
Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune says the people of Algeria will grow more determined in the face of those who oppose their values and independent will. President Tebboune stressed that the same people who turn past suffering into triumph will not be stopped by today's challenges.
The Algerian people who once made glory from suffering and sacrifice will not be deterred by the challenges. Instead, they will grow even more determined in confronting those hostile to our principles and the independence of our national decisions. We will foil their plots by moving forward with major development projects of infrastructure across all the regions, and by implementing our strategy to place Algeria's economy on a new course of rational investment in our vast national resources, and to enhance the well-being of the Algerian people who have overcome all the challenges through all stages. They have also learned from their history and the legacy of our martyrs, to whom we pay tribute on this sacred occasion.
President Tebboune also said the May 8, 1945 demonstrations were a genuine expression of the Algerian people's deep attachment to freedom, dignity, and pride.
On this National Day, marking the 80th anniversary of the May 8, 1945 demonstrations, Algerian men and women pause to remember a pivotal moment that reflects the magnitude and brutality of the suffering endured by a proud and resilient people yesterday, today, and tomorrow in their defense of our sacred land, with patience and sacrifice of blood for the sake of the homeland. The demonstrations of May 8 truly describe the Algerian people's unwavering attachment to freedom, dignity, and pride. They took to the streets 80 years ago to face the most heinous acts of genocide and crimes against humanity in modern history, sacrificing over 45,000 martyrs in their quest for liberty and independence.
Algerian Army Chief of Staff and Minister Delegate at the Ministry of National Defense General Saïd Chengriha said the unity of Algerian people and their support for state institutions, particularly the People's National Army, has been key to thwarting malicious plots aimed at destabilizing the country and undermining its national identity. Speaking at the opening of an international forum titled The Geopolitics of Terrorism Amid Global Transformations at the Army Club in Benaknoun, Algiers, General Chengriha noted that Algeria was among the first countries to recognize the threat of terrorism.
Algeria was among the first to recognize the dangers of barbaric terrorism and obscurantist extremism, which threatened the very foundations of the national state and its republican system. Drawing from its own painful experience, Algeria has become best equipped to grasp the scale of this foreign threat.
General Saïd Chengriha stressed that Algeria will not accept lectures from anyone when it comes to counter-terrorism, asserting the country's unparalleled experience in fighting terrorism within the framework of its republican laws.
إن الجزائر لا تقبل أن يزايد عليها أحد.
Algeria will not accept being lectured by anyone when it comes to counter-terrorism. It has confronted this scourge within the framework of its republican laws. Algeria suffered from terrorism's flames before anyone else, and it was among the first to declare war against it at a time when hesitation, doubt, and even complicity filled many political, media, regional, and international arenas.
And in other news, local media in Sudan reported explosions in the fourth consecutive day in Port Sudan. Sources added that plumes of smoke were seen rising in the northern part of the city, which currently serves as Sudan's temporary capital. The Sudanese army stated that on Wednesday, ground defenses successfully intercepted drones attempting to target the Flamingo Naval Base in Port Sudan, shooting down most of them. And Sudan's Sovereign Council leader Abdel Fattah al-Burhan stressed the need to boost security and improve the delivery of essential services, humanitarian and health support in White Nile State. His remarks came during a meeting with the state's governor, who later told reporters the talks focused on the overall security, humanitarian and service conditions in the region, along with efforts to restore stability and ensure access to basic public services.
Regarding White Nile State, His Excellency issued several directives, most notably focusing on the security aspect. as well as the social and humanitarian dimensions that directly affect the lives of citizens in White Nile, including their living conditions, healthcare, and education. His Excellency also directed or personally donated 2 ambulances to White Nile State to address the health challenges, in addition to providing an MRI machine, a wired CT scanner, and a cardiac endoscope for the newly established heart center. With these devices, God willing, treatment will be localized for every person in White Nile, meaning no one will need to seek treatment outside the state or outside Sudan.
Ladies and gentlemen, our program has come to an end. Thanks for watching and have a great night.